This is my review of the Razer Blade Pro 17, and spoiler alert, it gets a lot of fingerprints. I bought this 2021 edition of the Razer Blade Pro 17 from Amazon with my own money. I purchased this to replace my aging desktop, and I plan for it to be my daily driver. I plan on using it both docked and as a traditional laptop. When I'm at my desk down here in the basement, where my studio is where I would use it docked, and then if I wanted to move around the house, primarily in the upstairs area, I'd be using it as a laptop. And sometimes I'd plan on taking it to my brother-in-law's house for some gaming. This version of the Razer Blade Pro 17 was released in January 2021. I purchased it from Amazon on May 6, 2021, and it was set to be delivered May 12th, 2021. The reason I'm pointing out those specific dates is because you can imagine how excited I was whenever my brand new laptop was going to be delivered on May 12th, and then May 11th, one day before my delivery, the all new 11th gen Intel laptops were announced. For some reason, even now, Razer has not announced an updated 17-inch version, but they did announce an updated 15-inch version with 11th gen processors. So as it stands, today, June 7th, 2021. This is currently the newest version of the Razer Blade Pro 17 that's available. My Razer Blade Pro 17 has the Intel Core i7-10875H 8-core processor. It also has the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060 graphics card. They also had available the 3070 and 3080. At the time of my purchase, the 3060 is the only one available, but all of those are only 100 watts. Doesn't matter if you pick the 3060, 3070, 3080, Razer only offers 100 watt versions. My version also has a 17.3 inch QHD 165Hz screen. I did not want the 1080p. I would have considered getting the 4K one, but it was out of stock. So I decided to just go with the QHD. This version has 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 gigabyte SSD, both of which are upgradable. At the time of purchase, this was the only 17-inch Razer in stock, and I paid $2,299.99, and not a penny more. That's not true. There's a lot of tax and other stuff involved. Spoiler alert number 2, I don't love it. But it's not for lack of trying. I wanted to love this thing. I mean, just look at it. There's so much to love here. It's a gorgeous laptop. I love the all black monolith look to it, right? Even the front looks cool. I mean, everything about it looks pretty cool. Even the fans on the bottom there, the way the green on the side, the way the Razer does their ports, I like that too. I mean, everything about it, it just looks cool. If you open it up and take a look, the keyboard and the grills look pretty cool. And it's one of the few that I've seen anyhow, 17-inch laptops that comes with a keyboard without a number pad. The Dell XPS 9700 is another option, but for the most part, most 17-inch laptops have the number pad. And at the time of ordering, I didn't want a number pad. But again, it's a gorgeous laptop. It feels solid as a tank. It's 6 pounds, but I'm really strong, so that doesn't really bother me. I mean, it feels sturdy. Like, again, I'm really strong. I could break it in half if I wanted to, but there's no flex or bend to it. You could probably knock somebody unconscious if you hit them with this, so you like to look for that in a laptop. That's always good. The ports are also great. If you look on the left-hand side, we have the power port, the 2.5 gigahertz Ethernet port, 2 USB-A 3.2 Gen 2 Type A ports, a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 port that can be used for charging, and 3.5 millimeter microphone and headphone jack combo. Also, if you're gaming, I'm sure you're going to want to use the proper power point with the 230 watt Razer charger. However, most of my Razer usage was not gaming, and I had it plugged into a Lenovo USB-C charger, and it worked just fine. It would charge it to 100% and would not lose any charge while I was working on various items, such as emails, writing documents, not gaming, of course, but I would get this little pop-up, but you can just click on that and make it go away. I also want to point out pretty good placement for the headphone jack. This is the back side of the laptop and this is the front. So the jack is pretty close to the front. I also have the Dell XPS 9700 and it has the headphone jack all the way in the back. This would be the front of the laptop and the port is way back here. So if you're actually using wired headphones and you have to plug into the jack and you're typing on this side, obviously you have to go all the way. This much cord is wasted and it makes it less room for you while you're using your headphones. Whereas on the Razer, it's plugged in the middle, of course, so it gives you a lot more room, right? It only takes up a little bit of the cord. Now, obviously, I'd rather it be closer to the front, but that's still pretty good. This past week, I happened to use both of these as actual laptops. One night I'd use the Razer, one night I'd use the Dell, and it was less than ideal when using the Dell with the headphones because of that lack of cord space, right? It's a much more comfortable experience when using the Razer. And also, this is purely anecdotal. I didn't take any measurements or do any kind of actual tests. But I felt like listening to the same music or same videos, I would have to crank the volume up a lot higher on the Dell than I did on the Razer. So in my book, that's a win for the Razer. So back to the ports on the right hand side, we have the Kinston lock. Does anyone actually use these? I'm 41 years old. I've been working with computers and laptops for the better parts of 20 years. And I've used these locks at maybe 2 different jobs. And even that was probably 10 years ago. I certainly don't use them in a non-business environment, and I doubt there are a lot of businesses using a Razer Blade as their work computer. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt anything for it to be there, and I guess if you want to use it, it's good to have it, but it seems odd to me that so many ports are not standard on various laptops, but somehow this always makes it on there. And of course, the Razer has an ample amount of ports, unlike the Dell, which only has 4 Thunderbolt ports, but it just seems weird to me that that's always there, right? After the Kinston lock, we have the full-size HDMI 2.1 port, another USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A port, and a Thunderbolt 3 port, and a UHS-3 SD card reader. Here's a minor complaint, but it's weird to me that there's nothing to denote this is the Thunderbolt port. So obviously Thunderbolt looks just like USB-C, but generally there's like a lightning bolt of some sort on there. Neither one has any kind of designation of what that port is. And one is USB-C and one is Thunderbolt. You know, like a Thunderbolt cable generally has this little lightning bolt symbol, and usually a port does as well, but for some reason the Razer does not. So once again, it is important to give props to Razer on the port selection, specifically the SD card slot. For one, it's a full-size SD card slot. I noticed a lot of devices in 2021 have the micro SD card slot, but I prefer a full-size SD card slot. Obviously, you can use an adapter and put the small one in the big one. It just seems odd to me that on laptops, so many of them have the micro SD card slot when I would assume most people are using these in large cameras. Razer also uses the UHS-3 SD card reader, whereas most laptops that I looked at have the UHS-2 SD card reader. And in my experience, I was able to pull video files off the SD card onto the Razer super quick. I think I did like 75 gigs of video in less than 15 minutes. I did a similar pull on the Dell XPS 9700 and it was about 22 minutes. So it's pretty close, but obviously faster is better. And again, I didn't do a scientific test of any for it. I'm just using this off of my own real world experience for me. Also, the SD card slot goes pretty deep on the Razer. Me, I like to go deep. As you can see on the Dell, you can see how much more of the card is sticking out there. And on the Razer, you can't see hardly any of it. Also, the Razer is spring-loaded, whereas the Dell is not. The Dell just slides in and out. And it is worth noting, while I do prefer the spring-loaded mechanism, I did accidentally hit it one time and pop the card out without doing a proper eject. You know, that could give you a potential of corrupting the data. Mine was fine, thankfully, but, you know, I had the card in there. I went to pick it up, and I guess I just bumped it, and then the card popped out. This is an old card. I wouldn't be doing that normally. The Dell does not have a spring-load removal, so it's a lot less likely you would accidentally eject the card like I did. On the bottom of the Razer, we have 4 fans, 2 little ones here and 2 larger ones here, which is nice. Obviously, to help cooling, and these are meant to make it so I think the keyboard's not so hot. There's nice ventilation. There's a nice gap here. Even if when you open the laptop, you can tell there is a gap here to allow some breathing, and there's those vents kinking out, like on one of the newer Asus laptop. I believe the newer Asus laptop, the heat is going right onto the screen. There's no hole here for ventilation like this has, yeah, I don't know for sure, but I would assume this is better for you. The black color looks great. The metal feels awesome. It feels premium, of course, but then you come with the bad side, of course, is that it's a fingerprint magnet. I cleaned this right before the video, but trust me, it will collect fingerprints like crazy. They do clean off fairly quickly, but it's still annoying. A lot of people always talk about MacBook quality. I had some MacBooks and I never liked them. I'm not a MacBook fan, but I can say, you know, obviously the metal device feels cool. You know, cool to the touch. It's just, it feels sturdy that way. It does feel, I guess, premium. The Razer logo, I'm a little torn on. In general, I like the logo. I think the snake thing's kind of cool. But here, like from a distance, it looks good. It looks like it's lit up. But when you get close to it, it looks kind of cheap. Like that's just kind of like a green plastic looking thing. And then when you open it, it comes on. Like right now, it's lit up. And then when I close it, it goes off. On the video, it's probably not going to come through. But in person, I don't think it looks very good. Like it should have just been all black with green lights in there. But now it's like they have green glass, I guess, or plastic and it's just a regular light coming through. But it would look a lot cooler, I think, if it was just solid black when the light was off and then green when it was on. I think the speakers look really cool, and maybe I was dumb for thinking this, but in videos when I saw people reviewing this, I thought maybe this was like a mesh or something, but it's not. It's just like metal with holes in it. So like I thought maybe that was like a mesh speaker cover, because on the Razer phone that's how it was. But again, that was dumb, I guess. This is just clearly metal with holes poked in it, but I think it looks cool. People are worried about getting dirty. There are a couple specs in there, but I think you could brush that out fairly easy. I think the speakers look good, and I think they get bonkers loud. Like, I don't know why. I haven't done a lot of laptop speakers. You know, normally I don't even listen to the speakers. I usually just use headphones, but These are so loud, I do listen to these somewhat regularly. So there's a song that I use for my intro. This ain't turned all the way up. So at max volume, I'm not noticing any distortion in the speakers. Sounds pretty good, you know, for laptop speakers, right? Comparison, we'll try the Dell, which also have pretty good speakers. This is about half volume. So max volume. And that's just the default settings. I haven't messed with any of the audio settings at all in either one of these. Try a little side-to-side action. Let's try the Dell again. Okay. I don't know how noticeable that's going to be here. The Dell are way better. So that's funny. I never noticed that. I would have thought that these were better, but the Dell are definitely sound better. These might get louder potentially. Yeah, the quality of sound definitely goes to the Dell there. But they're way better than any other laptop I've ever used, not counting the Dell XPS that I just got. Now, this is where we come to one of our first major issues with the Razer. Again, when I purchased this, I did not want a numpad, so I was glad it was just a straight keyboard. But these speaker grills are so big, it causes them to smush the keyboard in. The Dell is a physically smaller laptop. They're both 17-inch screens. The Dell is a 16:10 aspect ratio, whereas the Razer is a 16:9 aspect ratio, and they're both 17.3-inch screens. So the deck, somehow, there are much bigger keys on the Dell than on the Razer. And it even feels like the grills are even bigger on the Dell than the Razer, and somehow, you know, there's just wasted space, like right in this edge here and right in here. There's none of that wasted space on the Dell. So it's very odd to me. If they filled up that space, you could have made the keys a little bit better and it'd be a much more pleasant typing experience on the Razer. And that being said, I can't really explain it. The Razer just feels cramped to me when I'm typing. I made another video testing the keyboard out, doing typing tests, and I generally stay pretty good on the Razer keyboard. But there's just a feeling whenever I'm typing on it, it doesn't feel great to me. I don't know what it is. It's not necessarily the feeling of the keys or the travel. I think this is 1.1 millimeter and the Dell's 1.3. But that's really not the major thing. It just feels like my hands are kind of cramped together, like, you know, and it just feels awkward when I reach out to things. So again, it just overall feels cramped. That's why I made a whole video on it. I watched a ton of videos and read a bunch of reviews on the Razer Blade prior to my purchase, and everyone made a comment about the keyboard, either complaining about it or calling it okay at best. It's just hard to get a sense of a keyboard from a review, and that's why I made the full video trying to explain it more. I'm not going to cram that in here, but I measured these with an actual tool like this, and the keys are just smaller. So that's part of the problem. So let me just try to summarize the other video. The keycaps themselves are small. I don't have any problem with the feel of them or the travel, but the physical feeling of the surface of the keys feels fine. The distance when pressing down on a key feels fine. In my regular life, I don't use a mechanical keyboard or anything like that. I generally type on the Logitech MX keys, and then my work laptop is a ThinkPad, which obviously is a great keyboard. Prior to that, I had a MacBook, I think the 2015 edition, and I liked those keyboards, and I had a MacBook keyboard everyone hates with the touch bar, and that one did suck. So again, but I wasn't expecting anything crazy on the Razer. Just, again, they're small and they're close together and it feels cramped. So you do get used to it. Like I said in another video, if your Razer Blade is your only machine, it could be just fine. However, I have a ThinkPad for work, I have the Logitech MX keys, and then my laptop stock, I'm gonna use the MX keys, and then it's just kind of jarring when you go back and forth from various keyboards to this one. And this feels like the worst one. Even though when I take a typing test, I tend to have very few mistakes and I type pretty fast on it. So I don't understand why, but it's just a feeling of being uncomfortable typing on it. I don't know what it is. So again, I don't have a scientific explanation. I just know I'm not crazy about the keyboard. And while we're on the subject of the keyboard, let's talk RGB lighting. Razer is famous for their chroma lighting, of course. This is my first time ever owning a gaming laptop or a gaming PC. So I was somewhat indifferent to the lighting beforehand. However, like I said, it does look cleaner on the Razer. If you look at other devices, the light seems to bleed all around the keys, and these tend to only come from the key, you know, the letters or the numbers or the symbols themselves. And I think it kind of looks just better on the Razer itself. But again, I'm not a big RGB kind of guy. The next one I think will look the best probably is the Lenovo Legion 7. I think it looks pretty cool. And you know, if you use that Synapse app, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do there. However, when actually using the device as an actual laptop and typing on it, I found the lights to be distracting. Unless you have it at a light color and static, or maybe that breathing effect, but whenever they're just bouncing around going crazy in all the different colors, So let me just do a little lighting effect and give you an idea. So yeah, like if we turn this to the wave, I guess there's a little bleed through there, but whenever you see those lights just going flying through, it's distracting when you're trying to type like that. So maybe you're not meant to do that, but it just looks really odd for me, and it to the point where I had to kind of turn it off. I will say, if you turn it to a solid color and just use like a static color or the breathing effect, the lighting works better than the Dell. So like I was using both these laptops at night, typing in a dark room multiple times last week, and these stay lit the entire time. The Dell, if you pull your hand away for too long, they go out. They don't come back on until you touch a key. And so that means I'd have to basically just hit a random key to make the light come on and then start typing. Whereas on the Razer, I could just go back to typing like it was no big deal. And obviously I much preferred that option as opposed to having to touch it to make the light come back on. I'm sure it makes the battery last longer by not having them all the time, but if I want the light on, I want the light on, right? Or at least give me an option to change it. I don't think the Dell has an option to leave it on all the time. All right, so if you look at the screen, this is the screen that was on, most of the pictures of it, of that wallpaper. And it looks pretty cool, but in person, if you stare at that, it made me feel like I was cross-eyed or something. I had to change it. Like when I first opened it up, I was like, oh man, that's a cool looking screen. And then the more that combination with the key colors flashing everywhere, I was just like, oh man, I gotta change this. So they also had this one on board already, and this one I think is a pretty cool one. I mean, that's a pretty cool one, I like it. So on the Razer, I've left that as my wallpaper. Oh, actually, while I'm on the keyboard subject anyhow, this may be dumb, but this is a power button. It's not a fingerprint sensor. There is no fingerprint sensor. It does have Windows Hello with the webcam, and it works pretty good. Even though the webcam is not very good, the Windows Hello, it seems to work fast. I never have any problems with it. When I was in a really, really dark room and had a little bit of problem, then I just put my pen in. But when I'm in a well-lit area or just even okay lit area, it works fast and quick. Much better than I'd say even my Logitech Brio webcam that I have at my normal desk setup. So even though the webcam is not very good, the Windows Hello is pretty good. So as far as the screen itself goes, again, it's hard to get that in a video. But yeah, it looks good. The screen is QHD. It is a good looking screen. I will say I'm not one of these people that says a 4K screen is wasted on a laptop. I very much want a 4K screen. But like sitting here right now, looking at this video play while I'm, recording part of it, it looks really good. I don't know. I mean, side by side, the Razer is looking pretty good, I gotta say. I think definitely the Dell is better, but the Razer does look pretty good. Where it really shines, I think, is if you look at like a text message or like just text on the screen, right? I think when you look at text, you can notice how crisp the text is, and then it's pretty noticeable. Like when I look here, these words versus the words here. Here is something I want to note though. You see this right here? This one here is the Dell. It is 17 inches, 16 by 10 aspect ratio. This is the Razer Blade, 17.3 inches, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. And if you look at the bottom, you can see there's a little bit of bezel on the bottom here, and people incorrectly complain about that. Now, on the top 3 bezels, the side bezels and the top, those should be thin. All the reviews I saw on the Dell were excited by that no bezel at the bottom, but I don't like that, because look how low that is. Like this, if you want to touch the screen, you're like rubbing your hand on the deck here. I don't care about a touch screen, but even just using the mouse, right? It's lower. I like a little space here to raise the screen up higher, because if you're going to use it like an actual laptop in your lap, then the taller is better, right? Or else you're gonna be craning your neck like some kind of weirdo, and you don't want to do that. That's not good for your posture, or you're uncomfortable to sit for a long period of time. So let's stop all this hype about no bezels. We do want bottom bezel on a laptop. It's there for a reason. All right, so again, this is a non-gaming review. We did play some games on it, and of course it chewed through them just fine. My son played Fortnite. Now there was an issue I had, so I've had a couple issues where one, I got a blue screen to death, and then twice the screen went out. It just went black. One time it went black while the video was still playing, and then once it went black, it just completely crashed and I had to reboot it. So that's concerning to me, only having it, 2 or 3 weeks now. So I don't like that. But as far as just using it as a laptop, gaming was fine. The games I play, Fortnite, Rogue Company, Realm Royale, all these games, the 3060 is gonna crush those just fine. Mainly, I wanted a powerful laptop to have the ability to play games when I want. It wasn't going to be my main priority, but, gaming laptops are often more powerful than other devices. And I do a lot of things in my real life, not just video editing. I do some light touch video editing, but I run virtual machines, some light programming, just lots of stuff that I want to do, and I want to have a powerful machine to do it. this device easily crushes my couple-year-old desktop. Anything I did, it crushed it just fine. Like there was no concern for me on the Razer. Like it worked just fine. When I did some video editing, it smashed it, no problem. Surfing the net, obviously just fine. And you know, everything was pretty great about the laptop. I've had those 3 crashes, which I wasn't crazy about. Obviously, I'm getting right up on my return window. I don't love the keyboard. So again, I made an unboxing, I made a video on the keyboard, and I made a video on Fortnite, potentially, if that didn't get too chewed up and crashed. The fans come on a little bit. It didn't really bother me that much. Everything I tried to do, it did well, except for the couple crashing, and I'm not crazy about the keyboard. So I am going to return it. If they make a newer Razer Blade with a slightly bigger keyboard, I'll probably be back in Razer because I do like this device and I want to like it. But I mean, maybe those 3 crashes were fluke accidents, but I have like 7 laptops and none of them do that. And the fact that I did that within the first month of ownership is concerning. And I wasn't doing anything. I don't even have that much stuff installed on here. The first blue screen of death, I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting in my lap with it. It wasn't overheated or anything like that. I was just on a website. The first time the screen went black and it just wouldn't respond, it just kept playing the video and the screen was black and it wouldn't do anything. I was just watching a video. And then the third time it crashed was when we were playing Fortnite. But we just started playing Fortnite, so it didn't get hot and overheated. We were using the proper power supply, so I don't know, it'd be weird. I could, of course, open a ticket with Razer support, but I have the eGPU, which has been fine. There is an issue with the eGPU. If you reboot a laptop over Thunderbolt with BitLocker, it kind of goes to a BitLocker recovery screen. I think that's just how they work at this point, but I had originally emailed Razer to ask them about it, or opened up a ticket with Razer, and that's been really kind of a pain. I'll go into that in the eGPU video, but it makes me not want to deal with Razer support. I know that people say they gotten better, but my experience thus far was not great. And when you're paying this kind of money, you know, $2,400, you don't want problems in your first month. So I vote with my wallet, so I will return this one. And for now, I have the Dell. Now, of course, the Dell is also brand new to me, and they also announced a new Dell. So I don't know if I'll keep that or return it, but for now, I'm returning this Razer. Even though I liked it, and again, the keyboard is kind of small, but my buddy Tony, he has a Razer Blade 15, I believe, and he doesn't think that's bad at all. But then again, you know, Tony's a small dude. I mean, Tony's a great guy, but he's a petite, is what I would kind of describe him as. I'm a large dude, I have big hands. You know, I'm 6'1", 250. Tony, you know, it's fine. But he's probably like 5'8", right? Maybe 140 pounds, something like that. So his hands probably fit the keyboard pretty good. He probably likes it better because his hands are so much smaller than mine. You know, for me, I feel like my hands are too big for the keyboard, so maybe he would like a smaller keyboard like that. So it's something to keep in mind. If you have small hands like Tony, you might like this keyboard better. Another thing to point out, I know I mentioned it in somewhere, this button is not a fingerprint sensor, it's a power button, but it's almost flat here. Like there's only a slight indent. So like, this is a super minor nitpick. Like I can't just put my finger right here. You kind of have to like angle it. And again, I have a big finger, so it's kind of hard. I gotta use my fingernail just to touch that button to turn the screen on. You can see it coming on there ever so slightly. You know, you can sort of get your fat part of your finger in there, but not really easy. I kind of gotta use my fingernail. But again, if you have a smaller hand like Tony, right?
I better use my strong hand.
You know, maybe that will be better for you. Maybe you'll like that. But like personally, I wish this button was bigger or just, you know, somewhere easier to press. Again, I don't remember if I mentioned that or not, but the Razer Blade does have a light up front. There's an area here. It will do the one finger lift, but this is kind of small, but still better than what the Dell has, which is nothing. But, you know, if you're on power or in activity, this light here lights up. Also, you know, I was not using the Razer charger. I was just using a standard Lenovo charger over USB-C. So let's see if one of these little battery packs will charge it or not. Plugging in one of these does not charge it. This guy's on, but there's no charging indicator here. Both on the Thunderbolt side and the C side. I tried both of them, the USB-C side. Other than that, like I said, it's a well-built machine. It looks good. I do have no issues with the trackpad. I like it a lot. I just wish the keyboard was a little bit bigger, and of course, I don't want it to crash the handful of times that has crashed already. So there's another weird thing about the buttons I wanted to point out. Again, this causes no actual problems, but it's weird how the numbers are on top. Like no other keyboard does that. The numbers are above the symbol, or normally the numbers are below the symbol, which is weird. Usually the symbols are above the number and the numbers are bigger. Same thing with up here. Normally the F buttons are smaller and the symbols are bigger and also usually on top. So I don't know. That's just weird to me. That's it. I'm not running a bunch of benchmarks. You can look at Jared's. All these other channels have tons and tons of benchmarks if you want to watch those. But I'll watch those, but I'm not interested in just re-spewing all that information. There's plenty of benchmarks out there. It's a very powerful device. If you get one that doesn't crash, and if you don't mind the keyboard, it's a pretty great device. All right, thanks for checking me out.